Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In this video I want to show you guys how to draft a simple Bubu dress with an aso-oke design around the neckline. The measurements you're going to need for this is the full dress length, the midpoint of the shoulder to where you want the sleeve to stop, and then the roundness of the area where the sleeve is going to stop. Make sure that it's a bit loose. Since it's Bubu, I recommend adding 1 inch or 2 inches to the roundness of the sleeve so it's very loose, and then also the neck depth. So the first measurement I'm going to take is the measurement from the midpoint of the shoulder to where I want the sleeve to stop. I'm just going to use a chalk to mark that point. Then from there I'm going to go ahead and measure the roundness of the sleeve that I'm working with. The sleeve roundness is very loose, which is why I'm using 11 inches plus 1 inch as the shoulder slant. So I'll go ahead and mark that and just draw a straight line to connect from here to here. After doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is take the bust measurement. So I just measured the bust point first. The bust point I'm working with is 10.5, and that is shorter than the sleeve roundness. So I just use the same line as the sleeve roundness to take the bust measurements, and I'm just taking the bust measurements here. The bust measurements I'm working with, I added 2 inches to it on both sides, which means I'm adding a total of 8 inches to the bust measurements to make sure that the dress is free. So at least 1 inch is what you will have to add to all of your body measurements if you're making a free dress. Since this is a Bubu, I'm adding a total of 8 inches. 8 divided by 4 is 2, 2, 2, 2. So since this is on fold for half of the body measurement, I added 2 inches to the bust measurements, and it's what I have at the bust that I will take all the way down. Is the complete lace length I'm using as the dress length. So I just took the same thing down and drew a straight line. This is not a fitted dress, so when you're making an outfit that is not fitted, is whatever you have at the bust that you will take straight down at the waist and the hip and at the full dress length. So that's what I just did here. I just drew a straight line. The next thing I'm going to do is use a curved line to connect all of those points so that it's not looking too sharp. So I'm just using a chalk to draw a curved line this way. The next thing I'm going to do is to mark out the shoulder slant. Remember, I added 1 inch to the sleeve roundness here, so I'm going to take out that 1 inch. And note that this is not compulsory. This is just like my own style, so it's completely optional. You can decide to not take out any shoulder slant. So I marked out the 1 inch, and before I connect, I'm going to come to the center of the fabric and first of all mark out 3 inches. So after marking out 3 inches, I'll connect the shoulder slant to meet with the 3-inch mark. So this is everything on how to cut this Bubu dress. It's very simple and straightforward. It can be done under 5 minutes. What I'm going to do next is to cut everything out, and I'm just adding 1 inch seam allowance all round. For the side it's 1.5 inch, but for the sleeve it was 1 inch seam allowance. So I'm cutting this out. Before I cut the neckline, I would like to cut this for the back as well. So after cutting the back piece, then I'll cut out the neckline. So I'm just arranging my fabric so that I can cut the back piece. It's the exact same thing I cut for the front, I will cut for the back. No extra alteration, nothing, just the exact same thing that I'm going to cut out. And that's because it's a Bubu dress, so there's not much to alter in the pattern to get a good fitting, because it's going to be free on the body anyway, so you can cut the same thing for the back and the front. So guys, this is it here. First part I want to cut is the front part. I'm cutting a v-neck. So to do this, I'm going to first of all mark 4 inches as the neck width, and then I'll come down by 8 inches, and this is going to be the neck depth. Because it's a simple v-neck, to connect this, all I have to do is use a straight ruler to connect from one point to the other. So for a bubu, you do not want the neck to be too wide. If the neck is too wide, you won't get a good fitting, which is why I'm using 4 by 8, and I'm only using 4 by 8 because this is a v-neck. If it wasn't a v-neck, I would probably use something smaller. So for the back, I don't want it to be too low, and it's going to be a round neck. So I'm just doing 4 by 4 all round and cutting this out. Now I'll go ahead and cut everything. So after cutting out the neckline, the next thing I want to do is to cut out the aso-oke. So this is it here. I went ahead to iron stay to it so that it doesn't unravel when I cut it, because aso-oke used to lose very easily. So always make sure that you iron stay to it before sewing it, whether it's for a bubu or for any other thing. So I've gone ahead to cut out the length and the breadth of the aso-oke. I'm just making sure that the shoulder on both sides is equal, so that one side won't be wider than the other. And I'm just going to first of all pin this down so that it doesn't move out of place when I want to cut it out. You can also do this on fold. I just chose to do it this way, but for the back pattern I cut it on fold, so I'll still show you guys that in case if that is the method you want to follow. So I'm just pinning this all round. So one thing you need to notice is that when you want to determine the length and the wideness of the aso-oke, you have to take the bust span and the bust point into consideration, but that will also depend on the style. There are some styles that extend down to the waist, down to the hips, but if you want something that wants to stop around the bust area, I recommend it being 3 inches wider than the bust span and 2 inches longer than the bust points. However, all of this also depends on the way you want the aso-oke to appear or to look like on the main fabric. So for basics, you can just follow that method, but if you have something else or something extra in mind, then you can go ahead and ignore what I just said and do it according to the exact style you want to achieve. So I've gone ahead to cut out the neckline for the front on the aso-oke. I'm just folding this into two to check if there's any inequalities and to correct the inequality. So I'm just trimming off this edge here because I noticed that one side is wider than the other, and I also trimmed a bit of the bottom parts of the aso-oke. You can see that it's not unraveling, and that's because I ironed stay to it. The next thing I want to do is add a little bit of design to this front part. So I'm going to come up by 3 inches. Ignore the tape rule situation. It's 3 inches I came up by. So I just mark this at the side here. Remember, this is on fold. And then I'll connect this back to the center of the aso-oke with a straight line and cut off the excess. So by doing this, I've created a design for the front. So this is what it is looking like after cutting it out. You can see that it's no longer looking basic. So later I'm going to fold all of these parts in with 1/2 inch, but for now let's cut the back piece first. To cut the back is not going to be very difficult, okay? So I just got a small piece of aso-oke. I don't want this to be too wide at the back because it won't really be fine if the back design is too wide. So I'm just making this about 2 inches below the neckline and the center back. So I just did this on fold. I folded the asoke and then folded the lace and then cut out the neckline. This is kind of like facing the neckline with asoke, and I'm going to leave this the way it is. You can decide to curve the edges, but I left mine the way it is. So this is what it is looking like. So I'm just giving you guys a visual of what the asoke will look like. So because I cut the neckline like this, it won't be difficult to put on because it is actually wide but not too wide. So next thing I want to do is to fold in all of the edges, and I decided to use 0.75 inch instead of half of an inch. I'm using pins to first of all hold it down. So after doing that, I'm going to use my iron to press it down at the side. You can decide to also use hemming gum to do this so that it stays properly. I ended up using hemming gum because the fabric wasn't staying flat, so I used hemming gum to hold down all of the edges all around. So you have to add the folding allowance when determining the full length and breadth of the asoke you want to work with. So while you're folding in this part, you have to make sure that you maintain the V shape around this edge here. So you fold in one side completely, then fold in the other side. The midpoints will have a little bit of pleat, and that's okay. You just iron this flat. So if the pleat is not there, then that means that you did not define the V shape properly. So this is what it is looking like after I've ironed it. I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same process for the back. So this back is not difficult at all because it's just a rectangle. I only folded in the edges because the hem of the asoke is the same as the actual hem. I don't know how to explain it. If you guys have ever used an asoke, you understand what I'm trying to say. So basically that edge is not rough and it cannot unravel, so I left it the way it is. The next thing to do is to turn the neckline of the bubu with the asoke. And to do this is going to be a little tricky, so pay attention. What you're going to do is place the right side of the asoke to the wrong side of the lace and then pin down the neckline before stitching. So the reason for doing this is that after sewing it down, you'll be able to turn the right side to face to be on top of the right side of the lace, while the neckline will still be looking very neat. Okay, so just watch the way I'm doing this. Right now it's the right side that I'm stitching to the wrong side of the lace, the right side of the asoke to the wrong side of the lace, not right side facing right side. If not, the asoke will end up being on the wrong side of the lace. Okay, and then I'm just stitching this down using half of an inch seam allowance. So this is it. What I'm doing now is notching this point here so that it can relax properly. So you go ahead and notch all around, making sure that you also notch the center point because that's very important for making the neckline to relax, especially for a V-neck. So this is what I was trying to explain. Now I'm turning the asoke, placing the right side of the asoke on the right side of the lace, and you can see that the neck is looking neatly finished. You are going to go ahead and iron this out before stitching down on the sides. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same process for the back as well. I pinned the neckline already to the lace, facing the right side of the asoke to the wrong side of the lace before stitching down. After doing that, I also notched around the neckline so that it can relax properly. After you have done this, you are going to go ahead and also iron it flat. And now the next thing to do is to stitch down on the sides. This is going to be very easy to do because it has already been ironed down. So I'm stitching down directly on the edge, making sure that everything is relaxed properly. Okay, So this is me stitching down the one for the front. So guys, this is what it is looking like after I've stitched it down. You can see it's looking very fine, looking very neat. I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same process for the back as well, stitching down on the edge, making sure that the lace and the aso-oke is laid flat. So this is why you have to iron before you stitch down. If you ironed it, then making sure it is flat won't be a problem. So this is what it is looking like. Next thing to do is to join the front and the back piece together. So you just face right sides together and pin it down. Then what you're going to do is to stitch down the sides. Then you also hem the edge and stitch down the shoulder line. Okay, so guys, next thing to do is to cut out what I'm going to use to tape the sleeve. I'm working with a 3-inch wide fabric, so I'm going to use half an inch to stitch, half an inch to fold in, and I'll be left with 2 inches once I'm done sewing. So this is me just showing you guys what I am working with. So to join this, what you're going to do is to first of all stitch this down on the wrong side. So you face the right side of the aso-oke and place it on the wrong side of the sleeve roundness and stitch this down with half of an inch. So by doing this, you'll be able to bring out the right side to lay on top of the right side of the lace. So I'm just stitching this down with half an inch seam allowance. After doing that, I went ahead to open it up this way and use a pin to hold it down. I actually advised that I iron this. I was trying to be lazy. I was being lazy, so I didn't iron it. I just held it down this way, and I didn't even pin the half an inch I folded in. So please make sure that you do that to make the work easier for you. So I just pinned this down first. So make sure that the lace and the aso-oke is flat and well laid. So what you want to do now is to fold this place in with half of an inch and top stitch on the edge, just like I did for the design on the neck. So you guys, please iron it and pin it down before sewing, and don't just fold and stitch as you go, okay? But basically this is the idea behind it. I folded this in with half of an inch seam allowance, and then I just stitched down on the edge, and that is everything on how to tape the sleeve. So we could use a contrasting color so that the design can show properly. As you guys can see, for the other side, I already pinned everything down before stitching. So I already folded it in with the half of an inch seam allowance and pinned it down to make the work easier for me. So guys, the final thing to do is to completely close up the seam allowance for the sleeve area. I didn't stitch it completely because I wanted to first of all tape around the edge of the sleeve. So I just finished up the sleeve there, and that is everything. You of course have to go ahead and iron this out. So I'm just doing the same thing for the other side and recording it for you guys to see. That is everything on how to sew a bubu with aso-oke. You can use these concepts to create something even better than what I did here. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. I always respond to all of my comments. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in my next tutorial. Bye.